everybody and welcome along to today's video where, as promised, I'm going to be answering all of your questions. Thank you so much for sending in loads of questions. I've got too many to answer, to be honest, but thank you for sending in so many and a range of questions about Doctor Who, my life, about everything as I asked for, which is fantastic. And I'm going to try and answer as many as I can. Apologies if I don't get to yours, I just don't want this video to obviously go on for an hour. So I've got my laptop here and I'm going to be working my way through the various questions that you guys sent me in on that video, so let's get straight into it with the first question. I will say these questions are in no particular order. I've literally just looking at what the first comment came in up until the latest one, so I'll just work my way through and see how we go. So the first question comes from Doctor Who Fan 98, who asks, do you think the series 9 soundtrack will ever be released? And the answer is yes, I do. I think we know it's coming at some point in the future, because Silver Screen did officially announce that it is happening. Murray Gold has said he's doing it. Honestly, I don't know when. Yes, they said early 2018, but we're in the middle of March now, so I don't know. But it definitely will happen. I'm very confident of that. And Doctor Who Fan 98 also asks, more seriously, what do I want to be doing career-wise in, say, 15 years from now? And actually, that's quite a tricky question. I'm not like some people where they sort of already know, at least within sort of the industry I work in, where people are like from the age of 15 know, I want to be a big movie director or something like that. I'm a lot more open as to what sort of role I want to have. Certainly it's obviously in TV, whether it be sort of filming or sound or editing, post-production or what, I'm not quite sure at the moment. I think I'm just going to have to sort of see how the next few years pan out, what job opportunities come up, but honestly right now, I don't know. Jack Nelligan says, what is it like working at the BBC? And well, it's, without waffling on for years about it, it's essentially very hard work, but very worth it. It's very rewarding. I get the opportunity to actually, occasionally at least, make features for the programme that I work on. So it's pretty satisfying when you've put something together that actually goes out on live radio. And that's definitely one of the upsides of it, but it is long hours, hard work. You really do have to put the effort in, and so it is a great experience, but it's definitely hard. And this kind of links into Hayden's 727's question. Of course, hello Hayden, thanks for doing that video on Marco Polo with me, it was great. Who says, how demanding is your work at the BBC on a scale of 1 to 10? I'd probably say 8 or 9. It is very demanding, and you've got to be willing to put the work in. It's worth it in the end, as I say, but it's definitely very hard. And Hayden also asks, who's my favourite musical artist? I think a couple other people have asked this question as well, so I may as well tackle it now. And I think for me, probably as as you probably have guessed, a big fan of soundtracks and sort of instrumental music, whether it be for TV, for film, or just people who compose instrumental music. I'm a huge fan of a sort of variety of different ones. Obviously, Murray Gold and Doctor Who stuff is very good. Personally, for me, probably my number one would be Ólafur Arnalds, the Icelandic composer who is probably best known for doing the Broadchurch soundtrack, but has also composed a huge amount of fantastic sort of instrumental albums and some sort of lyrical albums as well, with Arnold Dan doing the vocals on that. And I just sort of absolutely adore his style of music. It is quite sort of a bit melancholic, I guess would be the best word for it, and a little bit downbeat at times, but I sort of really enjoy the intensity of his music. There's also some of it's really beautiful, but some of it is a little bit, I guess, depressing, you could almost say. But I just really enjoy and passionately love his music, and it's quite hard to sort of explain it and bring it in words, but I always just will sort of move to his music, and I just always enjoy it. And almost, I think I get goosebumps sometimes listening to some of his music, which not much music does, so I really just have a sort of connection, I think, with his music, which is why he's my favourite musical artist. Okay, we've got a raft of questions here from Doctor Who-aholic, so let's see if we can bosh through these in no time at all. Who's your favourite Doctor? Doctor number 12, Peter Capaldi, of course. When did you first start watching Doctor Who and why? In 2005, the middle of Rose. Honestly, I couldn't tell you why. I just ended up, I think, stumbling in on my mum watching it in her room. I sat down with her, started watching it, and boom, the rest is history, as they say. What is your best memory of the show? That's an interesting one, actually. I mean, there's nostalgic memories of the very early, of this sort of 2005, 6, 7, 8 early RTD stuff that, of course, kind of I can sort of have vague images of my childhood self sitting in the sofa in my parents' or my grandparents' houses and watching classic episodes, the Christmas specials, that kind of thing. That's always a good moment because it's always got all the sort of from my youth, I guess, the presents all around, sitting around with all the family watching the Christmas Invasion or the Runaway Bride on the big TV. my grandparents' house. That's probably one of my sort of most fond memories, I think, of Doctor Who. Who do you want to see in season 11, returning and new? Well, I want to keep this brief, so I'm going to say lots and lots of new stuff. We don't need to have lots of returning villains. Let's have a new plot, a new big baddie of the series, and certainly from the filming pictures I've seen, there doesn't seem to be any returning monsters so far. But just to give you that fresh new tone, I think would be ideal for. Another person asking about the season 9 soundtrack. It will come soon, I'm sure. And what is it I actually do at the BBC? So I'm a production apprentice. I work on a Radio 4 show called Front Row, working with the production team behind the scenes on that. I'm a kind of a runner for the show in the evening, but I'm also involved with helping out in producing some of the features that go on the programme, whether it be doing research, helping out with recording or organising things in some situations. I'm getting getting some sort of practice with recording equipment and learning how to use stuff and that kind of thing. A lot of it is more sort of, I guess, training based, you'd say. That's because I am the apprentice, simple as that, but I'm very much being taught all the skills to sort of go forward. And TARDIS Whovian asks what my favourite classic Doctor Who episode is. Now that is quite a tough challenge. I feel like I probably shouldn't answer this question in case I ever do a video on it in the future, but I mean, some of my random favourites, I guess, that pop into my head are the Sea Devils. There's an underrated one. Inferno. I love Ambassadors of Death. I know it's a bit of a weird one. Genesis of the Daleks, of course. What else do I love? The Seeds of Doom. There's another great one as well. City of Death, of course. Going back to black and white days, I guess the War Games is fantastic. I love The Invasion as well. Earthshock's great. Peter Davison. There's so many good ones, really. I'll have to at some point do a video of my favourites of those. I mean, I haven't watched all of Classic Who yet, so maybe I'll have to wait until I've done all of it, but there's too many to choose from, really. Samuel Darlington asks, what are your main track predictions for the Doctor Who Series 10 soundtrack? I mean, well, let's get the Series 9 soundtrack out of the way first. I imagine the Season 10 soundtrack will be coming end of the year, possibly, if we're lucky. I mean, I certainly want to hear Bill's theme, a few variations of that would be quite nice. Well Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls, there's a huge amount of great music in both those episodes, so I hope that we get a lot of music from those episodes. I also think the pilot has a great soundtrack as well. Extremist, we need as much of that as possible because it's a fantastic-y sort of almost sort of spy movie, James Bond style soundtrack I sort of felt with that episode, which is fantastic. The Lie of the Land as well has got a lot of great music, so I think it's harder for me to pick out individual pieces, but certainly there's lots of episodes with great music in. Oxygen's got some more great soundtrack in it as well. So there's certainly a lot to choose from there. Now we've got a full-on 20 questions from Downton654. I mean, I might not answer all of these looking at some of them, but we'll see how we go with this right nice and quickly. How old are you? I am 20. It says on my Twitter, so I don't really care. Who's your favourite companion from Doctor Who? It's Clara Oswald. Shoot me. Who are your top 3 favourite Doctors? 12, 3, and 4 or 2, depending on how I'm feeling. Favourite version of the Master is Delgado. Favourite modern era story is Heaven Sent. Favourite classic era story, we've already done this, I don't know. What job do you have at the BBC? Production apprentice, working on Radio 4 show called Front Row. Pretty much covered that. What city do you live in? I'm not going to tell you, but you can find out if you want to. Go check out my vlog I did a few weeks ago where I went to the BBC Careers Fair. If you look carefully, you'll see a train station I go to about 2 minutes into the video. That is where I live, so go check it out. How did you get into Doctor Who? I can't really remember. I think it was just watching my parents and my mum, and then I found out that I actually love it, and it's the best show ever, so I just decided to watch it, but I can't really remember, to be honest. What other shows do I like? Black Mirror is amazing. Stranger Things I really like as well. Going back a bit, Broadchurch, Sherlock, obviously Torchwood and Class and that kind of Class, maybe not. I mean, I don't have, I guess, that many sort of shows of multiple series that I keep coming back to watching over and over again. I kind of like jumping on new dramas that come up quite a lot, whether it be BBC, ITV, Netflix, wherever. I'm a big fan of sort of TV dramas, crime dramas, that kind of thing, and so sort of some of the more recent ones we've had that I've kind of jumped on. I mean, Collateral wasn't really any good if you've seen that. Trauma, it was okay, both with John Simmon, so if you want John Simmon, check him out, but they weren't great, if I'm being honest. I'm watching Keeping Faith at the moment on BBC One Wales with Eve Miles as the main character. Go check that out, it's actually really good. There's just a few random ones. I mean, I should probably do a video on other TV shows I watch at some point, but that's just a few off the top of my head. What hobbies do I have? Not many. Making videos, playing video games, wasting my life on social media, not going outside. Pretty standard stuff, I think, for a 20-year-old slightly nerdy person. What is my name? My name is Elliot. Check me out on Twitter at EMS_Productions, where you could have known that for the last few years. Favourite Doctor Who villain? I used to always love the Cybermen, but now I'm not so sure. I do like the Master, I do like the Daleks. I don't really know. Favourite food? Don't really have one. I like pizza, I like chocolate, I like burgers. I'm very unhealthy, as you can tell. So I don't really know, but I love a lot of food. Do you like travelling? Not really, to be honest. I mean, I've just never really done it. I've been a couple other countries in Europe, but that's about it. I mean, I'd quite like to go to Australia somewhere, and that looks like a pretty cool place to go that's just sort of completely different to the UK. Be nice to go this time of year when it's actually hot down there as well. But I'm not a massive one for travelling, no. Just answered Jeanette's question as well. How do I not get copyright from the episodes of music? Basically because they don't block Doctor Who soundtracks on YouTube. For whatever reason, they only sort of limit it so you can't monetize Doctor Who music that's put on YouTube. It's sort of it's kind of third-party copyrighted, so you might find ads on the video sometimes, but no one, including me, can get any money out of those videos because they have copyrighted content on them. But they decide it's okay, they're not going to block the video, so that's how I do it. How do I make those amazing thumbnails for the episode of music? I don't make the thumbnails, they are Stuart Manning's Doctor Who posters. Go check him out, his Radio Times posters he did, and then he just started making them for himself. Search Stuart Manning, Doctor Who, I'm sure, in Google, and you'll find all his amazing range of posters, which are absolutely fantastic, and I take absolutely no credit for them. Could you rate the Matt Smith episodes like you did with Capaldi? Probably at some point. I'd need to watch the whole era again, and I'm not planning to anytime soon, but maybe at some point in the future I will. Why are you such a great YouTuber? I don't know, guys, you tell me. Damn, that sounded so egotistical there. But thank you for all the support, and nice to hear that you like me as a YouTuber. But on to the next question. Justin Atkinson asked what my favourite genre of television and movies are. I would probably say dramas, crime dramas, sort of, I like emotionally stuff, I guess you'd probably say. I do like quite dark stuff as well. Not sort of so much down the horror genre, but quite sort of depressing real life stories, which sounds a pretty damning thought on my life, but I do quite like that kind of thing. So that's probably why I love Broadchurch so much, because it very much is kind of combining all those elements. But I'm not, other than Doctor Who, I don't watch a huge amount of sci-fi, if I'm honest. I don't dislike sci-fi at all, and I do like the sci-fi elements of Doctor Who, but I think I find the sort of drama more appealing generally in other TV shows. Mr. Chipmunk 5 asks, Heaven Sent or Well Enough on Time / The Doctor Falls? It's got to be Heaven Sent. I do love Well Enough on Time, The Doctor Falls. It's a very close second, but it's got to be Heaven Sent. Hell of a Bird asks, what is my most watched episode? And I don't actually know. I haven't really thought about this, because although I say Heaven Sent is my favourite episode, I probably haven't watched it the most times. I'd imagine it's probably one of the sort of early RTD era episodes that I ended up having on one of those DVDs 10 years ago and just sort of watched on repeat. Possibly something like the Series 2 finale, maybe the Series 1 finale, something I think from those very early series, but I honestly couldn't tell you which one. Now the question you've all been waiting for, based on my title, from TARDIS Whovian asking, are you single? And the answer is, yes ladies, I am. So hit me up on the old Twitter DMs. From the 9% of females that watch my videos, I've checked the YouTube analytics, and 91% of my audience are male. So, you know, 9% of ladies, you want to, I am single and going, so hit me up on the old Twitters. I think I also had a question asking, do women fling themselves at me every day? And of course the answer is yes, absolutely. And apparently I am Penge, according to Tonic the Seshhog, which is a top quality name. And I don't even really know what Penge mean, but I think it's a good word, so thank you very much. And well, moving swiftly on from that one, Spiggy Pop asks, realistically, how long do you see Doctor Who lasting beyond Jodie Whittaker before the BBC decides it needs a rest, assuming she's relatively popular in however many series she does? I would say check out my video on when is Doctor Who nearing cancellation, where I strongly address that issue and say if Jodie Whittaker's a success, the show will go on for many years. If she's a failure, it won't go on very long. But I think she will be a success, so I think it will go on for much longer. Makuta Miras asks, how are you coping with the wait until Series 11? Surprisingly well, I have to say. I have surprisingly not, I'm not wallowing in my sorrows as a lack of Doctor Who, thinking every day, where is my new Doctor Who series? Surprisingly, I was expecting a bit more, considering we've had one episode in the best part of 9 months now. But I feel okay about it. I've got other things to watch, other things to do. That doesn't mean I'm less in love with the show or anything like that, but I guess I have a busy enough life that I'm sort of not too bothered. EMS Productions asks, if you could own one prop from the entire series, what would it be? I would probably say a TARDIS. I have to be honest. A Sonic Screwdriver would be nice, but probably either a Dalek or a TARDIS. I mean, it's probably got to be the top 2 choices. This has been quite an upvoted one from Bradley Willard, who's got 5 questions here, which I don't really want to actually answer in too much detail. So he says, best or worst Doctors. I might do a video on that in the future, so I don't really want to blow all these suggestions now. Same with top 10 favourite stories of all time. Honestly, I couldn't give you some right now. Top 10 favourite companions. Clara Oswald. Lol, she is the best. Other favourite programs besides Doctor Who, already covered that one. And arrangements of the Doctor Who theme, best or worst. I don't really like the Capaldi one, that's not very good. Probably my favourite's around the 2008 one they did. I also love the 1970 onwards one, that is amazing. Underrated gem is the 1986 Trial of the Time Lord version. I, for some reason, just absolutely love that 80s synthy version. I think it's fantastic. But at some point, I'm sure I will do a fuller version of all of these. I just don't really want to blow all the answers now. A few questions from Tom Bowen here asks, what actors / famous people have you met? I mean, It's a funny one. So I guess that I've gone to seek out is Peter Capaldi's the only one, and of course the picture from 2 years ago. I think it was on Tuesday or something earlier this week. I met Peter Capaldi, which feels, how can it be so long ago? But sadly it is. But I've also met various famous people in my job, of course, because I work on a live radio show that's a magazine show where we have actors, musicians and whatnot coming on the programme. So I mean, the most famous person I met is Daniel Radcliffe, which was pretty crazy. When he turned up with 7 or 8 PR people sort of helping him around. He had a cap and everything to try and hide him as he was coming into the building and getting out. So that was quite an interesting experience, having to look after him for a bit. I mean, in terms of other famous people I've met, I don't think I've ever met anybody else super famous. I guess Doctor Who people, I met Mark Gatiss. He came on onto the radio show as well, so that was cool to meet him. Other Doctor Who person, Tracy Ann Oberman, I've met her. She came on. Random other people, Harry Hill, there's a really random pick, the person that I've met. Armando Iannucci, who wrote The Thick of It, of course Peter Capaldi's previous great show. And yeah, I'm sure there's others that I forget, I genuinely do forget, and I see someone on the TV and like, oh yeah, I met him, that's quite cool. So yeah, quite a few now. Already covered these next few questions. What writers would you love to see write for Doctor Who in the future? I guess Charlie Brooker would be amazing. I'd love to see him do an episode. I mean, it'd probably have to try and tone down the darkness of Black Mirror, but I think he'd be amazing at it. Other than that, I don't really know. I don't really I guess other than Doctor Who, I don't have a huge amount of investment into sort of writers of different programmes and that kind of thing. So, I mean, Will Wheaton, that might be quite a cool one. But other than that, I don't really know. Has working at the BBC changed or informed my views on TV? It has changed my views a little bit. I don't want to say too much on it, but I guess it's slightly changed my sort of perception of how TV and radio is put together, sort of casting-wise, shall we say. I don't really want to go into too much detail because it's kind of not stuff you really talk about, but I'll leave it at that cryptic clue. And would you be interested to see the Tennant version of Series 5, which Moffat recently discussed? Yes, I would. I saw this rumour, this article, I think it was a good 2 or 3 years ago now, that Moffat initially mentioned it in a Doctor Who magazine somewhere, I think. The idea that if Tennant stayed on for Series 5, a lot of it would have played out fairly similarly. You would have had Tennant turning up like Matt Smith did at the beginning of the 11th hour, but the first version of him we would have seen would have been him right from the end of the series when he's just about to regenerate. So when Matt gets out of the TARDIS, it's all destroyed. That would have been a sort of dying 10th Doctor getting out of the TARDIS. Which I think would have been quite interesting to meet a young Amy. And then what happens is, when Matt, the 10th Doctor, obviously goes away, the 10th Doctor do the same, but then we'd see the 10th Doctor, a very young, a sort of younger 10th Doctor, come back to meet Amy when she's grown up, and so sort of the 10th Doctor wouldn't know Amy initially, but Amy would recognise the 10th Doctor, and it would all go quite interestingly from there, that she's met a future version of him. And of course he used that a bit in Series 6 as well, he brings that idea back in. And then it plays out, the most of the series could play out the same, and somehow he dies and regenerates at the end of the series, of course. So actually I think that would have been a fascinating, as good as Series 5 is, I think that would have been a fascinating way to go down. Just sort of one of those kind of interesting alternative history versions of Doctor Who. Wouldn't that have been interesting to see? But of course it didn't. Right, I know this video's been going on for absolutely ages now, so I really need to start racking through these questions. I'm going to kind of cut a few out, I'm afraid, because otherwise you won't watch this video if it's 40 minutes long, so I need to wrap this up. Top quality question from Glenn Reed, who asks, am I a communist? No, I'm not a communist, unsurprisingly. Lucas Dolding asks, is EMS your initials? I'm pretty sure your first name's Elliot, and I've wondered what the other letters stand for. Unfortunately, yes it is. It's a very boring name. That's kind of why I've never made a big thing of it. It's because literally it is my initials. I'm not going to tell you my middle and last name, but they do stand for my 3 names. My first, middle name and last name. I've just used this name since I was like 7 or 8, making random little videos on my old PSP camera. Throwback, if anybody's got those, shout out to them. Used to use the old little camera you stick on top of a PlayStation Portable, 0.3 megapixel camera, take out and film random videos with my friends, then chuck it in Windows Movie Maker and then make edits out of it with your generic pop music over the top. And stick EMS Productions on the end of it, and I've been doing that for like 10 years ago. So that's why I just decided it's quite a nostalgic name for me, so I'm going to keep it. Super Scully asks for my rankings of all the new Who seasons. I'm not going to give you the full thing because I probably will do a video on this, so I probably shouldn't tell you what number 1 is, even though you might guess based on previous videos, but certainly seasons 1, 5 and 9 are very near the top, is all I'm going to leave you with. Friends of Ood Kind, quite a good name, asks, what are your thoughts on Stephen Moffat as a showrunner? Did he get 11 and 12 right? Well, there's a whole can of worms to open up and me get absolutely destroyed for, because I think he did a very good job. I think he did get 11 and he did get 12 right. I think they were both very well written. I do not think the writing was bad in series anything recently. I think Moffat did a great job across the board. He made some mistakes, but overall it was a fantastic era, which was not full of bad writing, despite what anybody might say. A couple of questions here from Who Reviews, who asked, what is your favourite Doctor Who speech? Well, that's just actually quite a good question. I think probably it would be Capaldi's war speech in the Zygon inversion. I do also love the Dr. Fall speech about being kind. That's also a fantastic one, so maybe that one as well. But I think it would be a Capaldi speech. I think he's probably the speech doctor, you might say. So I think probably one of those two. And he also asked, if you could work for the BBC on Doctor Who, what role would you want? I don't know, really. I would love to work on Doctor Who. That's obviously is the dream. I think it's probably the dream for most people anyway, to work on Doctor Who. I mean, it'd be quite cool to actually be on set and sort of work in, maybe on the camera work or that kind of thing, but it'd also be quite cool to work in the editing or post-production, I think, either of those. Sort of, although you're not on the set so much, you're also going to get to see all the footage and, of course, put together the programme. Which would be pretty amazing. So I'd be pretty open to the roles, to be honest. And a nice one to end on here, I think, a final question from Iriana, apologies if I pronounced that wrong, who asked, have you imagined what your life would be like if the TARDIS landed in your living room? I haven't really imagined it, but I think it would be pretty amazing to go and travel all of time and space in a TARDIS with a crazy man / woman now. Would be pretty awesome. And I think I'd say yes. Would you say yes? I think I would say yes. So there we go, guys. That is my Q&A for today. I didn't really have any reason behind doing this Q&A. It just felt like a good time. It's a quiet time to sort of answer some of your questions. Apologies. I know there's loads of questions I didn't get to there. I just sort of had to try and sift through some of it and cut down a lot of it. So apologies if I didn't answer your question. And if you have a burning question that you do want to know, ask me in the comments below and I'll do my best to try and respond in the comments, just to at least give you somewhat of an answer for it. If not, you can ask me on Twitter, or if you want to do it anonymously via Curious Cat, as I use that on Twitter quite a lot as well, so feel free to ask me questions on there and I'll do my best. But I hope I've answered as many of your questions as you can, guys, and I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned a little bit more about me, possibly. Obviously about Doctor Who, but also a little bit about me, which is what I kind of wanted to get out of this video, I think. So thank you for all your questions, guys. And I hope you have enjoyed this. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe if for some reason you're new here and watching this video, which would be great. But if you are new here, make sure you hit subscribe, and do let me know if you've got any further questions in the comments below or any thoughts on any of the answers I have given. I'd love to hear from you guys. And remember, of course, to follow me on Twitter at EMS_Productions, and I'll see you again very soon for another video. Goodbye.